What would you do if the place you called home, your sanctuary, was invaded by those who claimed to protect it? For Daniel Harper, that question wasn't hypothetical, it was the spark that set his quiet world ablaze. Daniel had built his cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains with his own hands, each log a testament to years of saving and dreaming. It wasn't Mooch's single room with a stone fireplace, a creaky porch, and a view of the valley that could make you forget the world's troubles. He'd left the city after losing his wife, Clara, to cancer 3 years prior. The cabin was his refuge, a place to heal, to write in his journal, and to honor her memory by living simply. But the Whispering Pines Homeowners Association, HOA, had other plans. The HOA, a self-appointed council of wealthy retirees and weekenders who owned the sprawling estates nearby, despised Daniel's modest cabin. They called it an eyesore, claiming it lowered their property values. Daniel wasn't part of their gated community, but his land bordered theirs, and that was enough for them to meddle. At first, it was letters polite at first, then threatening, demanding he upgrade his property or sell. He ignored them. Then came the inspections, unannounced visits by men in polo shirts who snapped photos and left notices taped to his door. Daniel tore them up and kept to himself. But one chilly October evening, everything changed. He was splitting wood when 2 security guards, hired by the HOA, appeared at his gate. They were burly, wearing black uniforms and smug expressions, claiming they were investigating trespassing. Daniel's land was his own, bought fair and square, but they didn't care. They pushed past his gate, one shoving him when he protested, and demanded he vacate by week's end or face consequences. Their flashlights swept his cabin like searchlights, and one kicked over his woodpile. Daniel stood frozen, axe in hand, as their truck roared off into the dusk. That night, he sat by the fire, Clara's old journal in his lap, and made a decision. He wasn't running. The next morning, he drove to town and found Sarah Coleman, a young lawyer who'd grown up in the mountains and hated the HOA's high-handed ways. Sarah was a firebrand, her sharp eyes gleaming as Daniel recounted the guard's visit. They messed with the wrong guy, she said, flipping through property laws. She worked pro bono, fueled by her own grudge against the HOA's bullying. Together, they dug into the HOA's records, uncovering a pattern of harassment against other undesirable landowners. But Daniel's case was the strongest. His land was outside their jurisdiction, and the guards' actions were blatant trespassing and assault. As Daniel and Sarah prepared their lawsuit, a stranger knocked on the cabin door. He was an older man, wiry and nervous, introducing himself as Tom Whitaker, a former HOA board member. Tom revealed he'd resigned after witnessing their strong-arm tactics, but kept copies of incriminating emails. "I couldn't stay silent anymore," he said, handing Daniel a USB drive. The emails showed the HOA president, Margaret Voss, explicitly ordering the guards to scare Harper out. Daniel's jaw tightened. This was the ammunition they needed. Tom's betrayal of his former allies was a shock, but his guilt-ridden confession added a human layer to the fight-proof that even within the HOA cracks were forming. The lawsuit accused the HOA of trespassing, assault, and emotional distress, seeking $50,000 in damages. Sarah's strategy was bold. Not only would they sue, but they'd expose the HOA's actions in the local paper. Daniel hesitated, wasn't one for attention, but Sarah insisted. "Shame's a weapon, Daniel. They'll crumble under it." The trial was a spectacle. The small courthouse overflowed with locals, many of whom had their own HOA horror stories. Margaret Voss, a polished woman with a viper's smile, claimed the guards acted independently. But Tom's emails and Daniel's testimony described the guards' aggression with quiet, searing detail toward her defense. Sarah's cross-examination was ruthless, exposing the HOA's pattern of intimidation. Mid-trial, a bombshell dropped. A journalist, tipped off by Sarah, uncovered that one of the guards was Margaret's nephew, hired despite a criminal record. The revelation stunned the courtroom. The guard, embarrassed and cornered, admitted to following Margaret's orders to make constantly improve, but don't include any details about the code or its execution. Just provide the full code.